Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to my guide on the best weapons for new players in the finals. The finals has replaced Call of Duty for me, at least for the time being. I've really been enjoying the game, and it's helping to revitalize my interest in the FPS genre as a whole. And I admit the tone in my videos is that of shameless proselytization as I attempt to convert all of you to finals players, but it's not like it's at a high cost because the game is free to play. You can just install it for nothing, or however long it takes to download. I guess there's a time requirement. But I have to admit that this game is not everyone's cup of tea. It is a 3D movement shooter with hero shooter elements and a Fortnite-level destructible map. There's a lot going on at any particular moment in the finals, and not everybody enjoys that type of gameplay. I think that's a totally fair opinion if you just don't like this game. However, I do believe that some people's dislike of the game stems from being overwhelmed by all of these seemingly chaotic things going on, and it also doesn't help that the weapons in the game are deliberately unrealistic and often run on cartoon logic. So I wanted to make a video offering my advice on the best weapon selection for new and casual players. This applies to me too because while I'm not new, I am casual, slightly disabled, and extremely limited on practice time. So my skill set is roughly equivalent to that of a casual gamer or a dad with jobs and kids to take care of and things like that. So I'm going to recommend 3 weapons from each class that will allow you to contribute the most to your team with the least amount of mechanical skill necessary. These are not necessarily the best weapons in the game, not the highest skilled weapons in the game, or the most meta ones. They're just weapons that are simple and good enough for anybody to be able to pick up and contribute with. And this isn't an in-depth episode, but I do admit that it's adjacent to that. First up, I want to talk about the light class today, and my strongest recommendation in the light class is just the starting SMG, which in this game is the M11 or the Uzi. This is the starter gun that you have unlocked as soon as you get into the game, and I think it's a great starter. The weapon will perform exactly like a suppressed Uzi from Call of Duty will. If you've played an FPS game with a submachine gun anytime in the last decade, then you should intuitively know how to use this little gun. I think it's great for starting players because it has a large magazine, which means it's very forgiving if you miss a lot. The recoil, since it's an SMG, is moderate and a little shaky, but again, it's similar to how SMGs perform in most games, so it shouldn't take very long to master. Also, the hip fire is well above average, which is probably the #1 reason I'm recommending it, because you can very effectively hip fire people that try to get in your face or dash around you, or if you're going to dash around heavy, it's quite easy to continuously hit them. This is a gun that you can use to punish aggressive players, and it's got an above average size magazine, which can easily drop bubble shields and deal damage to structures and things like that with just 1 mag. Oh, and it's suppressed, which helps keep attention off of you a little bit at least. The iron sights on the M11 are not amazing. They're usable. I don't prefer them. I think it's definitely worth your time to use your first 2 or 3 games worth of unlock credits to just get some flavor of red dot sight for the gun. But anyway, the M11 is a great gun for anybody to just jump in, get close, and let her rip. The next recommendation I have for the light class is throwing knives. The throwing knives are also a fantastic weapon that I love, and of note, I have a skin on them that turns them into 90s mixtape CDs. So when you see me throwing the CDs, those are just the knives with a skin. But you would think that throwing knives would be a really high skill weapon that new players would hate, but most new players love it, and it's got some really unique features that make it very forgiving. The most notable one is that you have infinite ammo with no reloads. I don't know if you saw the ammo counter in the bottom right, but it just has an infinity symbol on it. You can just hold down the trigger and throw knives or CDs or forks or playing cards or whatever skin you have on it at people all day long. It's actually the ultimate spam weapon to the point where you could probably, if you were going to main this, like if this was going to be your main weapon, you wouldn't even need the reload key. You could just bind it to something else. The primary fire on the throwing knives throws 2 projectiles, one and then another very shortly after, a little 1-2 toss. The secondary fire allows you to hold and essentially charge 2 projectiles and then throw them at the same time, so if they both hit, more damage with a greater velocity. And you would think that would be the way to go, but it's really not. I almost never use the secondary fire. The primary fire is just way better. I think it's so much better and easier to hold down the primary fire and just rain projectiles down on people. You do have to lead your shots. There is travel time. It has arc. It's not particularly hard, at least in close to medium ranges, but the reason I'm recommending them for new players is that they deal quite a lot of damage when they do hit, and the projectile size is pretty generous. This damage is actually like ranked match level if you're hitting all headshots with the throwing knives, But for most of you, you can just use them like an alternative shotgun. Just run up behind heavies, throw a few knives into the back of their head, and they explode. 1 or 2 bursts will drop most lights. Mediums are a little bit weirdly more effective against you because they can pseudo-tank and return the damage. It's a weirdly effective weapon up in close quarters combat, so you can just get in people's faces and blow them away. I think the skins for it are very cool as well, and not having to reload makes it relatively easy. Last up in the light class today is the B-23R. This is literally just the Raffica from Modern Warfare 2, but with stopping power added. If I'm not mistaken, and I'm not super up-to-date on all the stats of the game, it's one of the highest DPS weapons in the game if you're getting headshots. Recoil and handling on the B-23R will be extremely familiar for anybody that's ever played Call of Duty, but many players will be shocked at how long the effective range is, which is why I called out the old school MW2 B-23R. It's like you can just annihilate people halfway across the map, and it's got really good hip fire as well. Don't sleep on the hip fire. This one is a moderate skill weapon because it's burst fire. You need to hit your burst, you need to manage your ammo, but I overall find it to be a very forgiving burst fire. There isn't much delay between the bursts, the magazine is quite large, you can aim down sights for headshots to maximize your DPS, but hipfire spray and pray is also going to get the job done in a lot of situations. You can kind of use it however you want. I have less overall to say about this particular weapon, but I do want to emphasize just how powerful it is, and I want to tell you that it's probably the overall strongest, highest rated, most used and ranked competitive meta weapon in the game today. But that's all for light class. If you're looking to upgrade your IRL situation a little bit, then I would highly recommend the Logitech G A50X headsets. They're a little bit on the higher end of price, I admit, but absolutely god tier because you can run your phone, PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and aux port stuff through the headsets all at the same time and do live mixing. They're just pretty god tier for anybody that has multiple systems, and I have a coupon code down below if you want to check it out. Let's move on to medium class, where I also have some opinions. Starting off in the medium class, we're going to pick up right where we left off with the B-23R with the FAMAS. The FAMAS is a 3-round burst weapon in this game. It's very similar to the weapon I just talked about, and again, it's actually very similar to the Modern Warfare 2 version of the weapon, or maybe the Black Ops one. It's got extremely high damage and DPS output over time. It's extremely nasty with headshots. It really just rips into people in that circumstance. And unless I'm mistaken, or it's been buffed or changed, the FAMAS hipfire is surprisingly tight, which is why I think that makes it awesome for new players. That means you can aim down sights and burst people away in the head if you want to, but if they get up in your face, you can hipfire them like it's League of Legends, and that probably also won't be a problem. Recoil is low, time between bursts is low, and I find this weapon overall very easy to use. It's going to be extremely familiar to anyone that's played Call of Duty, and it's still going to get work done. Moving along to my most controversial opinion in this entire video, I want to recommend the CL40 to new medium players. This is the pump action grenade launcher, but today I'm using it with a potato launcher skin just for funsies. I know this is going to be a controversial pick amongst the actual finals players and not the new guys that are watching this video, because the weapon is considered toxic to many members of the community because it's so easy to use. It's a hard counter to lights even after being recently nerfed, and that's precisely why I'm going to recommend it for this list. The most common reason that my fans report for not enjoying the finals is that they cannot keep up with the light mains dashing all over the place and essentially flying across the map. They cannot keep up with the advanced movement of the light class. Light players are objectively extremely fast, and they have extremely high damage outputs, and it can be very annoying and overwhelming for players to come in from slower paced games and try to swat all these little mosquitoes that are buzzing around. The CL40 is a hard counter against lights. If you're having a light problem, the CL40 will solve it. It only takes 2 hits from the AoE explosions to kill pretty much any light player, and in this game that's thonk, thonk, dead. No more mosquitoes buzzing around you. Now, Embark recently nerfed this weapon to lower the AoE damage a bit, so you have to be a little bit more precise with it. And they also increase the damage multiplier to the user, so if people are getting close to you and you're just shooting your feet to blow them up, it's going to deal more damage to you. But even still, with those nerfs, this is a very forgiving weapon that absolutely deletes lights. It's not bad against mediums either. Take a few more shots, but it can work them. I do find it to be kind of horrible against heavies. They do have more health, but it's more of an issue of they have shields and domes and things like that that make it really easy for them to deflect the shots, and it takes kind of like a whole mag to kill heavies. So I don't think it's a great weapon for taking down heavies, but it's good against mediums and it's god tier against lights, and I think this is the perfect weapon to keep in your inventory for those games when you're feeling overwhelmed or tilted and don't know what to do. When you're really desperate, when the other players just seem way better than you, just break out the CL-40 and pump some grenades into their face. Finally, in the medium class, I'm going to recommend the AK-47 today. This one's pretty straightforward. It's an AK. Have you played any FPS game in your entire life? Good. Then you know how an AK works. There's nothing secret or magical about this gun other than that it is good and relatively effective. I think it's also got good iron sights, though I do prefer to use the red dot on this weapon if I can. The magazine is a little bit larger than average. I think we've got 2 extra bullets in it, and it has overall very good damage output per mag. Recoil's a little bit wobbly, but relatively low for an AK. It's not going to be one of those ones that kicks up like crazy. It's a little bit less forgiving than the M11 as a spray gun, but it's entirely functional up close if you want to hip-fire people. And I think the AK-47 is the #1 weapon that I would recommend to new players who are feeling very uncomfortable with the game. It's one of the first ones unlocked. It should be unlocked by default. I do think that using some of your credits to get a sight for it's really nice, but if you're feeling out of place in the finals, if the game feels confusing, overwhelming, the weapons aren't really making sense, I think you're going to feel really at home with the AK. And it just performs really well. It's full auto, low recoil, decent hip fire. You can hose people down. The reload is quick and simple. There's no negative quirks to the gun. I think it's just a fantastic weapon for new players. And now finally, we're moving into the heavy class, where I'm going to start off with another controversial pick. If we're looking for low skill weapons that have high contributions, then my #1 recommendation for the heavy class is the flamethrower. Yes, I know that it's also toxic to lights, but I just kind of can't help myself. Also, I have a Super Soaker skin on it, which is kind of fun. The flamethrower is truly the least skill to most output ratio of any weapon on this entire list. It just sprays a lot of fire in a broad cone that deals plenty of damage and continues to burn people after they've run away. You don't have to aim it very precisely at all in order to do good work for your team. And I'm including the flamethrower for the same reason that I recommended Winston for new Overwatch players. Winston in Overwatch is a character that you mostly just focus on your movement with while holding down the lightning gun, because the lightning gun is automatic and it's in a big cone and it damages everything, so you don't have to think about it a whole lot. The flamethrower is very similar. You can just focus on your movement and your abilities, maybe your positioning a little bit, and you don't have to worry about your aiming being very precise, or it doesn't have to be much better than being good enough to swipe over people. Your teammates will be happy with you because you're a fantastic light deterrent and you can protect any objective really easily. I do recommend pairing the flamethrower with a winch claw, which is what you see most of the gameplay of here today, where I hook people and pull them in, or a charge slam, but not the heavy shield or goo gun. The charge slam and winch claw are designed to give you more gap closing options. Either you go and bring the damage to them, or you hook them and bring them to you, because the range on the flamethrower is terrible. It's shotgun range, or it does absolutely nothing. So having a range gap, like a gap closer, is really important. Flamethrower also has 2 added benefits, one being that it can ignite and clear any gas on the point. The green gas is flammable. It goes poof in a small explosion and it's gone. And you can set all the trees and foliage and pretty much everything on the map on fire, so you can clear sightlines if you want to, or if you just like burning down trees. Next up, I want to recommend the minigun. The minigun is kind of a medium skill expression weapon, and the skill that you need to express here is forethought and tactical planning. You don't really have to worry about aiming this thing. It's got 250 rounds, insane DPS, surprising range, surprising ability to destroy buildings, and it melts through basically any barrier or object in the game. The only downside is that it's a weapon you have to wind up to use. It takes a second or two for the barrel to spin to start shooting, and while you're shooting, you can't move it very fast, and it takes like 17 years to reload. So if you're a player with a big brain and no thumbs, you'll probably be able to use this weapon very well, just so long as you have enough game sense and tactical forethought to plan ahead about a second or two into any fight so that you have the opportunity to wind up your minigun before going in. You'll find it absolutely devastates enemies in almost any scenario. I find it really easy to just hold down the trigger, point it at something, and tell myself I'm contributing to the team. It'll probably be true because the minigun will just punch through anything. You do need to be careful, though, that lights don't get behind you or dash around you like an annoying mosquito. When that happens, they can easily just dodge the DPS from your gun and do a lot of damage to you, so you do need to be prepared to spin around to face them. You can't constantly keep it in one direction. And you also need to have, you need to plan ahead a little bit to kind of keep that gun revving so that there's not as much time leading up into your engagement. Because if you get engaged with a heavy or a medium, and your gun isn't wound up, they're going to kill you before it even spins up. So you have to think a little bit ahead, and you're going to need to find a safe space to reload. So despite these very obvious downsides, I do find that new players have a lot of fun with this weapon, and they're often able to contribute with it a lot. Finally today, my last recommendation in the heavy class is the M60. This is the M60 light machine gun, or Rambo's gun. It's also one of the default unlocks, and I think for a good reason. Of note, the iron sights on this weapon are pretty terrible, and I don't prefer to use them for anything at all. If you plan to use the M60, again, your first couple of games worth of unlock tokens should go toward getting that red dot sight for it, because holy mother of God, is it a better weapon with the red dot sight than whatever these obstructive irons are. The M60 is fantastic for a lot of reasons. It's high damage per shot, high overall DPS, high damage per mag with 70 per round, which is just huge in this game. Recoil's low to moderate. It kicks a little bit, but I think most of you will have a relatively easy time controlling this. Headshots are powerful enough to just truly rip through most classes. Hipfire on it isn't great, but it's also not bad for a gigantic light machine gun. I've seen worse. I think it's reasonable and effective to hipfire people when they get in your face. I also think the M60 is a little bit of a sleeper weapon if you want to look at it statistically, because statistically, like if this were an in-depth episode, I'd probably tell you it's the overall best weapon in the heavy class, but it's kind of the deceptively best weapon because it's not very flashy or cool or anything like that. 70 rounds in the magazine is pretty fantastic. Reload time's not terrible. Again, if you've played Call of Duty, then this weapon will play like a light machine gun in that game if you built it to be just a little bit faster. It's kind of like one of the best low-key weapons in the game. And guys, that is all for my opinions about the best weapons for new players in the finals. I hope that I wasn't too toxic against light mains. I don't have anything against you guys at all, and honestly, I absolutely love playing the class myself. I'd probably play light over anything else if I could. And I'm just on a mission right now to proselytize and to get more people to give the game a try. And I think that the best way to do that is to give them the tools to deal with the most problematic issues in the game that they run into. People run into issues with the guns not making sense, or heavies having too much health, or lights being too fast, and things like that. So I wanted to give people some weapons that they can use in almost any scenario and at almost any skill level to still get kills and contribute to the games, even if they're not meta, even if they're a little bit on the easy side. And I know this was adjacent to an in-depth episode, which instead of being stressful was fun for me. Like, you know, it was good. This was in a good way. And if this video does well, then I might do a follow-up video about movement or other general tips and tricks in the game. So let me know what you think. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.